and welcome back to Gardening for Your Soul with Jess. This is August 1st, and I am here to do a bit of garden talk with you and walk you around my garden and give you a little bit of a progress of what's going on. It is a gorgeous morning this morning, and I'm so excited to show you some of the things that are going on. There is so much opportunity for growth and rebirth of some of the things that have been going on, because in late summer you have a lot of things that have been kind of waning from the heat, and we are finally getting a break in some of that horrible heat and humidity that we've had here in Pennsylvania. Even if it's just for a little bit of time. We do have, like much of the East Coast, we are being threatened with, I think it's a Hurricane Isaias that's going to be coming up, and we're supposed to be getting some of that rain coming later this week, and that's going to be a real relief, because my garden, although I try not to make sure that I'm watering every day so that those roots really grow into the ground and look for the water sources naturally, to get the real good, more acidic type of water instead of the alkaline water that comes from our homes. I can talk more about that at another time, but that's actually the healthier water for our gardens. That water that comes from the sky, that comes naturally from nature, is actually better for it. So we want our roots to grow down, so we don't want to be watering every day. Hopefully some of that rain is going to come in here, because even though it was forecasted later this week, and it's Saturday today, so we never ended up getting much of that rain at all. I don't even think we registered any rain yesterday when we were supposed to get more of that. So, before I get started, I want to wish my nephew a very happy birthday. Today's his birthday. I'm going to be going up to Allentown to spend the day with my family, and we're going to be floating down the river. Well, hopefully there's much of a river to do that, because the rivers are really low here from not having the rain, but I'm very excited. So happy birthday, Cade, and why don't we go ahead and get started. In the garden here, we've got, the flowers are still doing well. I've got my zinnias here, and they're still doing well, and if you are a gardener, many times you will recognize your garden at this point in the year. It becomes a bit of a jungle. Yep, we've got jungle. The butternut squash at this time of the year is always crazy, but my sunflowers, they're like 15 feet tall, and I love them. I have so many sunflowers that naturally come up and are volunteers. I'm loving them. This tunnel that I created with the cattle panels, I can't even walk through. It's such a jungle in here. But the Mexican sunflowers down at the back end here of the garden, can't even walk through. But I am going to have some amazing butternut squash. Can you guys see the size of that? They're probably about a foot long, and they got some meat on them. So I'm really excited about what I'm going to be able to do with those soups, and I'll be able to saute some of that up. Now, one of the things that I'd like to be able to talk with you guys about today are some of the opportunities that we have in the gardens at this time of the year. Now, I don't believe in showing you the most perfect things in the garden so that you see, oh, there's a beautiful garden and there's never anything wrong, and how can I get my garden to look that way? Because guess what? No gardener ever has a perfect garden. Okay, there are always things that happen to every gardener, as you can see. You see some of these wilting. These are all my cucumbers. One of the things I'd like to talk about are the problems that I have in southeastern Pennsylvania. I'm in Amity Township. We are ground zero for these things called lantern flies. Now, as you can see here, this is stage 2. I still have some of these hanging around. These are called spotted lantern flies. Stage 2 is this week has gone into stage 3, the adult stage. And these things came to us from Asia on a shipment to a nursery. And unfortunately, because there's no natural predators, they've developed in the last 2 years, but unfortunately, they have decimated a lot of our plants. So you see a lot of these wilting. These are all my cucumbers. What they do is they sit on the plants and they suck from the vines. And all of my, these are my pickling cucumbers. There's a little bit left here. They suck on the vines and take all the juice out, and then they end up wilting. So if you can see here, I'm not sure how well I can get this here. This is the 3rd stage finally, and this is the adult stage. They kind of look very pretty when they become an adult. They have reds and yellows in them, but they're actually very detrimental to the plants. So I just wanted to go over that. So if you've never seen them, if you happen to see this down south and you start coming across them, they can be very detrimental to your plants. We have to make sure that we check under our cars. So if we're traveling out of state, we're not carrying them to other places. You can see under my sunflower here, they like to sit under the plants. There's another one. There's a really large one over there. It's really an adult stage. As much as we love all of divine creatures and everything, these things have taken over so badly, we just try to kill them as much as we can. There's not a lot of chemicals, which I don't try to put chemicals on my plants, but there are a lot of things that we try to do. I have found peppermint oil and different solutions with that. With lemon oil has been helpful. I did find one in the stores recently that I talked about on some of my Facebook videos earlier in the summer that was helpful, but these things really jump very quickly. They appear to fly a little bit. They don't really actually fly based on the information I've heard. They kind of flutter. But they are actually they're just very detrimental. So what I am doing is taking this experience that I have and the opportunity to, now I'm going to be pulling out after this. I just wanted to explain what happens and show you what they do. I'm taking the opportunity to now take new seedlings. It's still early enough in the year to replant, and I'm going to be spraying that solution with the peppermint oil and make sure that I'm trying to get on top of these and so it doesn't do it again. But I'm going to take new seedlings of cucumbers and try to do a fall planting of them and regrow my cucumbers, because these are it is the end of this towards the end of the summer, and cucumbers tend, with the heat that we've had, tend to wilt anyway. So that's a little bit about lanternflies, but opportunities. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Here's another example of opportunities. I have had problems all summer long with some of the chipmunks and rabbits and moles and stuff like that in my garden. Gardens, again, are never perfect. You see what has happened with my beans here. These are pinto beans. I have lovely pinto beans that are starting to come back because as much as they were growing up my lovely trellis, they detached because whatever can reach about a foot up has actually eaten away the vine. So it ended up, I still got some beans off of this. I was able to harvest a little bit here, but they ended up eating the vine, and I wasn't able to continue with that. So anyway, they are growing back. Next year, I'm definitely looking into what kind of fencing would be appropriate for what I have here, and most cost effective for that matter. I've got problems over here, same thing. Still gonna get some beans out of this. These are the cannellini beans that I'm growing for soups. But same thing. I mean, these haven't been completely eaten away. There's still some really good growth over here. But same problems and everything, because these are starting to wilt. Last week, these were thriving, nice green and lush like it is back here. Something got into this and definitely detached the vine. It's still going to grow back. What are we going to do with that? There's always things that you can do in the garden to make things better. Over here, oh, wait, I gotta show you. Look how beautiful these sunflowers are. I love my sunflowers, how beautiful. I'm gonna actually do some cuttings of these. There's so many because they'll actually continue to bloom down the vine, or down the stalk there. And I'm gonna cut some of them for some, to put into a vase later today. But my sugar babies are doing really well over here. They're starting to get some blooms. So I'm excited about that. So give it another month, I'll hopefully start getting some watermelons. Over here, I've got my celery. And here are my seedlings for my zucchini, because I'm about ready to pull my zucchini out. Because they're coming, even though they look pretty healthy, they're really slowing down in their production. I've got a zucchini here, down here. That's really pretty little. I actually want to give that another, I'd say, another day or so to get a little bit bigger. Still very tender, but I'm going to give it another day. This particular plant, not really producing much. I still have a couple of little ones that are coming out, but I may be pulling that in today or so. This is a second planting that I did. I actually got this from another nursery. Doing okay, it's finally coming back, but I've had a little bit of trouble getting that to start really coming in. I've got my peppers, and these are my picnic peppers that are really, really super sweet. They're smaller, so they don't have a lot. They don't get really big, but they get very red and very sweet. Very exciting. This was an accidental planting. These were supposed to be the giant Marconi, and these ended up being, I think, Uncle Tony's from Levin Goods Nursery in, Douglasville, I think. And these ones I really like, but they don't get very meaty. They are sweet Italian friars. These ones over here, I'm very excited about. These are my giant Marconis, and these what I like because I don't do hot Italian pepper, any kind of hot peppers. These ones are the ones that I like, but I'm waiting for them to turn red. So they get really large, but they're coming along very nicely. Now, the other things that I am very excited about, we're going to do some harvesting today. My tomatoes are finally really starting to come in. So I've got my sun sugars here that are ready to be harvested, and I pull a little bit off of here at a time. But there's quite a bit that I've got that I can pull. I've got a whole bit of these. One of the things that I am starting to do that I wanted to show you guys is that, you know, the energy that you put into a tomato plant, or that being put into a tomato plant, is really important for how they start, how the energy flows for a plant. So when you have things that mature, for example, down here, all of the tomatoes I've already picked off of this particular stem, we can cut that off. The plant does not need to put any extra energy into any of this. So we're going to cut that. Not going to hurt the plant, it's actually going to help it. Over here, this is the last tomato on this stem. I'm going to pull that off because it's ready. We're going to cut that one. And what that does is that it allows the tomato plant to pull energy into the areas of the plant, moving up the plant, into the areas so it can really help these other tomatoes mature, and so instead of to areas of the plant that don't need it anymore. Another example of that is to branches that are diseased, like this one. So if you have a branch that's really wilting, doesn't look very healthy, cut it off, especially if it's at the bottom. You don't need that. Okay, if it's properly trellised and pulled up like this, see how this is all very bare? It's very healthy. When you have leaves that actually hang onto the ground and then they start getting brown, yellow, what that does is it transfers into the plant. You want to actually take those off and get rid of those. Okay, so there's a lot more to harvest. I'm not going to take time in the video to actually harvest all of that, but I have got some other ones here that we're going to harvest. Here are my Roma tomatoes, and these are the ones that I use for my canning. So I'm really excited about these. Some of these don't seem super, super red, but what I do, because of some of the problems I've had with the vermin in the garden, is I will harvest them a little bit underripe, and then I'll just let them become red in the windowsill. Over here we got another, this is an Amish paste. So we have the Roma tomato over here. We've got Amish paste. I'm super excited with these. These are the Amish paste also, but they're really quite large. I actually weighed the largest one that I've ever grown the other day. It was a full pound. Now I know that tomatoes can get much larger than that, but for me, a full pound is a big deal. So anyway, so there's the tomatoes. My mint, always crazy, creates that jungle feel, and that is something that's just a fact of the matter for me. Over here, I've got a little bit more of the tomatoes. I'll get those in a few minutes, but they're not quite ready to come off the vine yet. So, but I've got a lot going on in the garden. My strawberry patch over there, got some strawberries going on, and the blueberries. Everything's just kind of coming along. Having to really work with the problems with the the heat, the lack of water, and how that is really playing into where the plants are, how they're growing and everything. But the one thing, as I said earlier, that I really wanted to talk about this time around this week is opportunity. How do we turn the things that are going on in our lives and the general narrative and discussion in the public into an opportunity? Opportunities come in so many different ways, and we have a choice in how we tend to look at things. In the garden, I have the choice of looking at the garden and saying, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, I'm so upset that the lanternflies have sucked the life out of my plants. Or I can say, you know what, this is an opportunity to replant and be able to get fresh new plants and try to learn another thing or another opportunity to deal with it in a different way. Because gardening is never perfect, just like our lives. Our lives are never perfect. It's always a journey. It is always how are we going to learn to deal with it? It's perspective. What perspective do you want to have in your life? You can choose the positive, or you can choose to dwell in the negative. It is all about that. So this particular word keeps rolling around in my head throughout the entire week. I figured this has got to be what I need to talk about today. So as I said in prior videos that, my garden has always been about a reflection of the things that are going on internally with myself. And, that's one of the things that I like to communicate to you guys, and why this channel is so important to me, and being able to get information out to you guys, being able to touch and connect with you guys, since I'm not able to work with as many clients as I can. I don't get out in the hospitals and my cancer patients, and we're not in groups and working together as much as possible anymore. So it seems social media is the way that we're doing a lot of that now. This is what I'm being guided to do, and the message that, like I said, the message this week is all about opportunity. So how does the garden help us with that? Looking around and seeing, do you see failure, or do you see, wow, what a great opportunity? Can you look at your own life and say that? It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter how bad you think it is. Can you possibly hear in your own head, wow, what a great opportunity it is, to find something about that? And, whether it's the riots going on, whether it's COVID-19, and that sounds really weird because, there's some really scary things going on out there. But can we find a way to turn that around and find something positive about it? Think about it. When the shutdown happened and everybody had to, be shut into their homes, what began happening? Do you realize how difficult for me as a gardener it was to find supplies? Do you know why? Because everybody became a gardener. People started reconnecting with nature, and that is actually really exciting to me. So as much of and frustrating as it was, it's really exciting to me to find out that people are starting to reconnect with nature. People are going out, they're doing home projects, they're being with family. How exciting was it the first time that I actually went out to eat, even though it was outside in a, it was outside under a canopy, but we went out to eat, and guess what? There were 6 tables and nobody was sitting on their phones. Everybody was reconnecting with family. People were looking at each other. They weren't looking at their phones anymore. That's the kind of opportunity that we have had with the changes that we have. So I just want to give these examples to everybody and help you to understand the things that are changing, it's perspective. So what great opportunities we have, and the things that, kind of coming back to the garden, because this is about garden talk, but what can we learn from being in our gardens? What can we learn from having our hands in the soil? And it really comes down to, what do we see when we look at the ground? What do we see when we look at the soil, when we look at plants? And plants can be all about, do you see growth? Do you see beauty? Do you see, death and destruction? Or do you see growth and renewal? There might be some death there. There might be some wilting, but do you see new growth? Do you see renewal? Those are things that happen, but it's all about perspective. I don't want to keep going on and on about that, but I hope that you got that idea. That's the message that I was given this week that I wanted to communicate to you guys. I want you guys to go out and, really enjoy the day. It is as I said earlier, a beautiful day. It's gorgeous. It's nice and early today, so it's sunny, but not too hot so far. I think it's still in the 70s, thankfully, but it is supposed to still get up into the high 80s here in this area. And please enjoy each other. Please take the opportunity to appreciate the family that are around you. Unfortunately, we had a death in the in-law side of my family. Take the time with the family that you have, hug them, love them, and remember to tell them, I love you. Tell that to your friends. How many times do you actually say to your friends, I love you? But take those opportunities. Don't let them pass you by. It's so important for each of us to connect to each other like that. So until the next time, I love you all. Please take the many blessings that I send out and take them into your heart and enjoy each and every day. Take care.